on a Monday morning. Brendan, folks, just think about this. Brendan, in Ocala, Florida, this hurricane, Melvin or Marvin,
dickhead,
is heading that way. Folks, batten down the hatches, get ready. There's a lot to talk about. We were up in Fayetteville all weekend. Saw Arkansas beat Tennessee for the fourth or fifth time in a row. Then a little thing happened in Nashville. Lots to talk about. Dave Tompkins is going to join us from the Low Country in South Carolina. Ellis Johnson has the cable guy at his house. Hopefully he can join us. Lauren Meadows will pop in, and Brendan will be in studio control in Ocala. A lot to talk about. Hey, smash the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. Allow notifications on your Android and iPhone. Met a lot of people up in Fayetteville, folks, this weekend that are going to be watching the show. We did the show up there Friday. Their chancellor, Dr. Charles Robinson, really, really impressive. I mean, I call him the people's president. So a lot of things happening in the world, folks. You think things are bad, they're going to get better. Believe in the free market. Get pen and paper handy because class is in session.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, here we are at Mission Control, man. Look, where do you even start? I like Shoney, send your cable guy to Valdosta. Well, he's with Coach Ellis Johnson right now and right up there around Clemson, South Carolina. Dave got back about 6:15 last night from Fayetteville, went up there Thursday afternoon. Wow. All I can say is I hadn't been up to Fayetteville in a while. What a campus. They're pushing 34,000 students, graduate and undergraduate up there. And we, when you've got J.B. Hunt and the Walton money and Tyson, the chicken fingers, chicken tender, wow. It was interesting. We talked with the people on the fundraising part. I said, in the two campaigns ago, one of the Walton family members wrote him a check, a certified check, $400 million. The next campaign, another Walton family member, $500 million. Holy shnikes. I think my hand I'd be sweating writing a check for $500 million.
Get you a new roof, Dave.
Yeah, you could get a new roof. But
I had to get a new roof after Hurricane Debbie.
Yeah, we were up in the club section at Donald W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium, Frank Broyles Field, and their club level seating at that stadium in Fayetteville is massive. And about 4 minutes left, a lot of people were like, it's not. I go, y'all are going to win this game. You're going to win. If you expect your team to play a full 60, you got to stay a full 60. And as we had just watched Vanderbilt knock down Alabama. And last week I'm talking to one of my good friends, Stephen Patrick Walsh, a Vanderbilt alum, and he goes, Bobby, I think Vandy beats Alabama straight up. And I went, I think Vandy covers, but I'm not going to say they're going to beat them straight up. That is the first time since 1984, and Vanderbilt beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. First time in 40 years. And Florida beats UCF. They had to win that. Dave, I've put 3 delicious dishes, chicken, beef, and fish out there on the table for you. What do you like to start with first?
It's just what a smorgasbord. Wow. Well, I'm thinking back, me in basketball, I'm thinking back to when Villanova beat Georgetown in the 1985 national championship. They basically pitched a perfect game. Vanderbilt pitched a perfect game. They did everything they had to do to win. They held the ball for nearly 43 minutes. They had 2 huge turnovers on Milroe, obviously the pick 6 and the strip sack. Their special teams were extraordinary with their punting. I think 5 of their 6 drives were 4 minutes or longer. They never had a 3 and out. And by the end of the game, by the fourth quarter, Alabama's defense was gassed. I mean, they and obviously got tremendous play from their quarterback and all 5,000 people he brought from New Mexico or Texas or wherever. All of them been drinking in Nashville all week. It was I mean, hats off to Vanderbilt. Of course, I was disappointed with the result, but the deserving team won. And now you look at the SEC, you got Texas A&M at the top, 3-0. And they have a pretty clear road all the way to when they host Texas at the end of this season. So, all of a sudden A&M has jumped back into the conversation for playoff, for SEC championship. It is just so wide open in the SEC right now. It's unbelievable.
It is. And okay, is it parody? What is it? But I will say this, and we've been saying it all season long. Diego Pavia is the Mickey Rourke of college football. I mean, this guy's the toughest. Who do you want in a fight at 3 a.m. in a bar? Diego Pavia. This guy's got a chip on his shoulder. He's got something to prove. I love this guy. And he had like 70 family members there at the game the other day. And wow, he comes from New Mexico. And Jerry Kill. His real name is Kilkowski, I think. Mm-hmm. And he just goes by Jerry Kill. He's won 174 games as a head football coach. He comes to Clark Lee. Did you know Clark Lee is a direct descendant of the manager of the 1899 Sewanee football team that won 5 games in 6 days, and on the 7th day they rested? Just thought I'd throw that in. Thank you, Norman Jetmanson.
And then the game you witnessed, Arkansas, Tennessee, that was classic. Yeah. I don't know if Brendan's happy or unhappy that his Gators beat UCF. Well, we'll see. But hey, they're 3-2. They were supposed to go through this easy part of the season and be 4-1 or 3-2.
This was the easy part.
Yeah.
And now the hard part starts. But I think they're a better football team right now. I think they're going to handle their gauntlet a little bit better than Auburn's going to handle their gauntlet. But we'll see.
Florida's fool's gold. That's what Florida's just like fool's gold. It's it feels like fool's gold because every year we do the same thing where we get excited.
Fool's gold, yeah.
I if you look at look at an interesting stat, because I look at Florida stats way too much, but look at an interesting stat. Third and fourth quarter of that game, 0 points offensively for Florida, right? Yep. I don't know what it is when they've got the lead or what Billy's strategy is at that particular moment, but they just play small ball. And I'm not saying they had it was in jeopardy of losing the game. It's just that you could use a really good bloodbath. Like I hate to say it, going into this next round of the season, you could use a great win against UCF, which people had them picked over you.
On the show Tuesday, with Lauren Meadows, the proud native son of one of the tougher regions of America, southeastern Ohio, where a bunch of bad mofos come out of
Southwest.
It's Southwest, okay. Southwest. But those are some tough-ass people up there. Now, the toughest people might come from Youngstown, Ohio, the DeBartolo family, who built the first shopping mall in America, Raleigh Springs Mall up in North Memphis. But I'm going to tell y'all something. I'm texting with Brendan from Reynolds Razorback Stadium up there with our guests, Jim and Pat McClellan. Audrey and I were there, and Maury Gaston. We had these God bless America. The SEC, when you go to these college towns, if you hadn't been to some of them in a while, Lauren, you do it. Brendan, you do it. Dave, it'll blow your mind. It will blow your mind. By the way, the Walton Museum in Bentonville, Alice Walton wanted the original portrait of George Washington, our founding father. She bought it, $50 million. It's just, and by the way, the Walmarts and the Dillards and all those stores up there, they're just better. I mean, because that's where they are. But I'm telling y'all, I'm texting with Brendan, Florida. I had Florida to win. Remember, Brendan and Lauren, I said last Tuesday, Florida wins 19-18. But they ain't going to lose that game. You're on with Dave Tompkins in the Low Country over in Beaufort, South Carolina. Spends a lot of time in Sarasota with his dad. But Lauren, say hello to Dave Dave's at a load. Lauren's part of the Gator Bait media crew.
Oh,
Travels
fantastic.
all
How you
over
doing,
the place.
Dave?
Hell of a
I'm
rider.
doing
and a
great,
coach.
Lauren. Southwest Ohio. That's got to be that's right on the border of Kentucky.
A little further. Well, it kind of encompasses. You could probably say it starts around Troy, Ohio, and kind of meanders down to through Dayton, Ohio, basically that I-75 corridor to
Okay.
get to the Kentucky border. So I'm actually from Dayton, Ohio, born and raised, and you could go through a litany of athletes that have come through Dayton. Keith Byers, Edwin Moses, to name a few.
Whoa.
SEC people, Peerless Price, Andy McCullough, Kelly Days, who played at Tennessee with Johnny Majors, different people like that. Big Dan Wilkinson, #1 pick in the draft. But as my wife likes to say, it is the home of the funk. So if you're a music fan, Heat Wave, Ohio Players, Slave, Parliament Funkadelic, a lot of people got their start in Dayton. And then some of the other Zapp and Roger, Fazo, so the home, and they actually have a sign that says Land of Funk. So, but yeah, that's where I'm from. And, we play a little football up there. I like to remind the people of the South that at least in those little pockets, Southwest Ohio, Northeast Ohio, Youngstown, Cleveland, they play some football up there too. So, but like you guys were talking about UCF, I had it 31-20. It ended up 24-13. I thought that Florida, after seeing Florida, UCF in person against Colorado, I did think that Florida would be able to lean on UCF. I wasn't impressed with UCF up front on either side of the ball. Not to say that Florida had been any more impressive, but I did leave there looking at a subpar Colorado football team that was able to push UCF around, able to do some things by spreading them out, creating run lanes. I thought that Florida would win that football game. And then from a historical standpoint, it was a game that they had to win.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't care how they won it. Like people were talking about the way that they, they only got 3 possessions in the second half. And I think had it not been for that holding penalty, they would have went in and scored and made it, 31, I think, to 6 at the time. But, they didn't. They only got it 3 times. UCF kind of played keep away for whatever reason. And but that would have been an indictment on the entire operation as far as Florida was concerned. Everybody from the recruiting people to the janitor that cleans the pristine locker room that Billy Napier spoke about in pregame. Everybody would have been under indictment had Florida lost to UCF. And I'm going to be serious. I mean, I wrote in my article, if they play that game 10 times, Florida, I think, wins 10 times. They were just a better football team. I mean, they were quicker
and they should have.
They were more aggressive, right? And they should have. And somebody said, we're at a point now where we're talking about what if UCF beats Florida. That may be the thing, and I think that's where maybe Brendan's going is there should never be a point where you're worried about a UCF football team beating the Florida Gators, but we were there on Saturday. So, Rob, I know you wanted to jump in. So
no, I was just going to say, you're from Dayton, Ohio. I don't know if you've ever been to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And
I lived 10 minutes from there. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. But look, this is a cool thing. And I like this, Maury Gaston. You gave Dave beef, chicken, and fish. But he'd prefer to talk about the Black Knights of the Hudson. He's a West Point graduate, Lauren, from Mountain Brook, lifelong Bama fan, West Point grad, MBA at Stanford. He's all over the place. Dave, Army and Navy, both undefeated at 5-0.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
There's a lot of cool storylines in college football.
A season for the ages for both West Point and Annapolis. This is the best Army team ever since I first went there in 1981 and before. Probably the best Army team since like 1958. Jeff Monken's a tremendous coach, and as good as Army is, I think Navy's a little bit better. Their offense turnaround. The coach's name, offensive coordinator, is like Panic or something like that, and it's a panic attack offense. They're both really good. They both have to play Notre Dame on neutral field. Navy's playing them at Giant Stadium, and Army's playing them at Yankee Stadium. And I think there's a chance one of them can beat Notre Dame. I mean, they're already, both teams are already in discussion for the 12th spot in the playoffs. They're both in discussion for the conference championship. If they meet each other in the conference championship, they play the conference championship, and then the next weekend they play each other again in the traditional Army-Navy game. And then if one of them's in the playoff, then they have their 12-5 game the week after that. That would be quite a gauntlet. But we're just loving it. We play UAB this weekend at home at Michie Stadium. We're a 23.5-point favorite. I take Army minus 23.5. They got a quarterback, Bryson Daly, who is just so fun to watch. He's a linebacker basically playing quarterback, weighs about 235. Did a stiff arm on Saturday. He grabbed the cornerback's jersey and just literally threw him out of bounds into their bench. And that's what he does. He loves to leave downfield blocking. He's just a real old school throwback guy. And so, of course, every Saturday is my salvation to watch the Black Knights.
Well, it was a big story. Ed Hall, a great friend of mine down in Lynette, Alabama, watching. Bama was outplayed and outcoached, and he is a Bama grad, okay? Great writer, too. The loss to Vandy also proved the importance of having an experienced quarterback on your roster. Diego Pavia and Cam Ward at Miami proved the importance of experience in clutch situations. I don't know how many people were watching. Cal's up like 28-10, and they're down 20 in the fourth quarter, and they come back and win. I think it was 1984. Miami was playing Maryland, and it was like 31-3, and that great comeback. This is unbelievable. Guys, let's talk about Tennessee and Arkansas. I'm sitting up in the box with our guests, Jim and Pat McClellan and Maury Gaston. My wife, a Vol for life, was wearing, she was cool. She goes, look, I said, neither team looks like they looked at the playbook all week long. But my man, Travis Williams out of Columbia, South Carolina, Spring High School, played at Auburn or coached there for 104 games. He took his Hogs back a few weeks ago. They got a win. His defensive game plan, Lauren, took Nico Iamaleava hold the ball too longer, and he didn't come here from Sikkim. That's one of the best game plans I've seen. Tennessee just could not figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Well, you got to, I think with that attack, what that attack is trying to do is to get you to misalign and then make the picture easy for the quarterback. And, you've seen it under Heupel. They get you and they get you at breakneck pace, and then they kind of give you a picture, and all of a sudden the guy's 20 yards behind you out of the backfield.
Yeah.
You kind of lose somebody and things like that. What Arkansas was able to do is vary the picture. Where Nico, and I'm not going to try, I've been trying on that. I need to get that last
Iamaleava.
Yeah.
I still can't say DJ right. I don't know
right.
what
So, with that, it just made him uncomfortable because it forced him to take that quick, easy throw, and it wasn't there. And now you got to reset your feet. What my coach used to say, get your pecker to the pass and actually throw an accurate football. And if you're not seeing it and it's not gradual, then your feet, your body and your shoulders don't move to that. And then that leads to errant throws. It leads to off-schedule throws. And they were getting just enough pressure where he just didn't look comfortable the entire day. And I think that's what it was. And you know as well as I do, as the quarterback does that offense. Florida showed you 2 years, in odd years, they showed you what, for instance, they didn't make his name escapes me, but Joe Milton, they made him very uncomfortable in the swamp 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
And then the year there in Knoxville, they were getting there, but just couldn't get it done. But you give them that varied picture, and it's tough, and especially if they can't get the running game going as well. And that was the other part of it is, for all of Nico and things like that, if they're not punching you in the mouth, getting 6-7, where they can jump on you right now, then it forces you to settle in and, for lack of a better term, play quarterback.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the things that, and then, Arkansas is always going to be a physical brand under Sam Pittman.
Yeah.
They are. They're going to play physical enough where it's like, okay, wow, now we're into something. And I think Arkansas got just enough. Like you said, it looked like neither one of them looked at the playbook, but you saw that Sam Pittman pedigree coming out, and they were able to hang on, particularly there at home. So I think
Yeah.
that it was an indictment. Now Nico could go out and shred the Gators for 400 and that kind of thing, but it is you are starting to see maybe the formula to make that thing. But the first thing you got to do is you got to get them into 2nd and 8,
Yeah.
Yeah.
3rd and 9. You got to be able to do that, and then you can play from there. But that varied picture that Auburn was able to do, to where you take that quick gimme away from him, where he could hit that in his sleep. Now you force him to reset those feet, and now he's got to play quarterback.
Well, one thing,
I-
Dave, did you see this, both of y'all, with Tennessee? And Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net, who's on the show with us every week, came by the house, and it was like Mayberry, man, this town, Fayetteville. We're sitting on the front porch hanging out. It was like 93 degrees up there. It was crazy.
Did Howard Spriggs stop by?
Absolutely. We saw, and Otis came by.
Okay.
He bought a cow. He bought a cow, was riding down the street. Fayetteville's phenomenal. I mean, so we're talking to Dudley about the game. And I kept saying, if Arkansas can get on top, and I love to use this term because it's true, because that's how I work. Force me out of my comfort zone, I'll get better. Yeah. Make Tennessee do what they hate to do. And it was 3-0, but Tennessee never could get in rhythm, Dave. And when you do that, the longer it goes, the team that's the underdog has a better chance to win. And Dave, you look at probabilities all the time.
Well, a lesson in life I've learned the hard way, but I think it's the most profound lesson I've ever learned in my life. And again, the hard way, it's been through a lot of mistakes and F-ups, is you have to become comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to overcome adversity. And that was on full display Saturday night in Fayetteville. That was the test. That was the question we were asking, going back to last June and July, and we'd be talking about this, about both Tennessee and Missouri and Ole Miss, which is, okay, once you get them out of their rhythm, and I love, Lauren described it so much better than I can describe it in terms of doing this, and you get them uncomfortable, how do they respond? And unfortunately, Tennessee did not pass their first test there. Now, the SEC right now is so wide open. A one-loss SEC team is going to make the playoffs, so it's not the season over or anything. But Tennessee learned the hard way. What I learned the hard way many times is you're going to have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, Lauren, against Oklahoma, you know what's funny? Tennessee won the game on the road. Brent Venables' defense, you knew he was going to come at you with a lot of different looks. That's the first time Nico had gone on the road. He beat up on look who Tennessee played early. Chattanooga, NC State, Kent. Then they go play at Oklahoma. They won 25-15. And then the other night, they lose 19-14, Tennessee does. Do you know what Josh Heupel's record is as a head football coach? When they don't score 30-plus points, it's 1-13.
Right.
Does that portend a lot going ahead for the future of Tennessee, that if they can't, because you think that these defenses, Venables and Travis Williams, and I'm going to tell you, one of the most underrated guys is that defensive backs coach. I know him, Marcus Woodson at Arkansas. Those are two guys that are special. And they've got two really good coordinators there. But Tennessee better figure this out, because a Florida team's coming in. I don't know how confident Florida is, but Tennessee's now, they've got their mulligan. They got to play. They're playing for the playoff. Where do y'all rate this season on a 1 to 5? And 1 being boring as hell. You got 3 great teams beating the crap out of everybody. 5 being, man, I mean, it's more fun than a barrel of monkeys drunk going downhill.
Well, and we got the Red River rivalry this week. I mean, we've never had that before. We get all eyes on Texas, all eyes on Dallas, Texas State Fair.
Well,
State Fair.
Yeah, you get and to go back to what Dave was saying. I mean, we'll get to that. First, let's talk about the SEC, and then we'll talk about where the season's going everybody at the in the SEC, once you added Oklahoma and Texas, everybody you go to visit is going to be standing at the gate waiting on you. Everybody.
Yep.
Everybody's going to be standing on the gate. Even Mississippi State is going to be standing at the gate waiting on you, because
The
that's
Vanderbilt
what the league
Commodores.
is. These guys grow up playing against one another, and even more so, even the national guys know each other because of the advent of the 7-on-7, things like that. These
Yep.
guys know each other. They're not scared of anybody anymore. Now, does that mean you won't take a tail kicking? No, but they're going to be at the gate waiting on you. And in this league, you got to go and take it, period. So, it's just like with Arkansas. They've seen Heupel. They've seen these offenses before. Florida just played. This is literally the 6th up-tempo team Florida has played. They're going to get used to it. Now, will they go out and make the plays? Who knows? They still got to move the ball and things like that. And can they run the ball against Tennessee's front and all those things? But these kids will play and step up and be waiting on you at the gate. I mean, they're going to be ready to play football, and you got to go and break somebody's will. You've heard me talk about it, Rob. I said it all the time. Football is wonderful because for 60, 70 tries, I got to try to break your will. And then afterwards, we go and shake hands. So, and then when you look at the season, Dave just talked about it. You could get Army-Navy for a conference championship game, and then get Army-Navy for Army-Navy. I
Yeah.
mean, how great is that? I mean, just that you have that now in college football, a 12-team playoff where there's going to be an upset. I mean, you can't beat it. I mean, I think that I heard somebody the other day say they like the BCS. They missed the BCF and said the BCS only got it wrong one time. I could think of like 5 times they got it wrong, and we all know that.
Almost
2004.
every time.
Right. 2004. Just a number of different times. I mean, I saw Miami beat up on an Eric Crouch Nebraska team when the Florida Gators should have been. I mean, so many different times where the two best teams were not playing.
Yeah.
Right now, you're going to get an opportunity to A, get better throughout the season, and B, now we can finally say, you know what? That team has outlasted, like Rob said, they've won the war of attrition, because they've used walk-ons for special teams just to stay healthy. And you're finally going to get that champ. So, like I said, I give it a 5, no doubt.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about what's wrong with sports, and we can come up with all the reasons what's wrong with sports. But let's give sports and macro some credit. Let's give baseball some credit. The way they've reconfigured the playoffs. You have a three game wild card and a 5-game division, and then you go to 7 for the LCS and the World Series. Mm-hmm. It's made for 1.5 months of very, very compelling sports in baseball. So give baseball credit. Give golf credit for taking the last major, the PGA, and moving it to the second major. And there's now a 6th thing. You start with the Players Championship, the Masters, the PGA, the U.S. Open, the Open, and then whether the Ryder Cup or the President's Cup. And not to mention the FedEx playoffs. I mean, that's really compelling. College football, the changes they've made, I think, extremely compelling. I mean, this is the most exciting season of my life. I mean, this is just. I get to care about, a game in Dallas this weekend that I used to never care about. And it's just wonderful. And so give the smart people who've done this reconfiguration across all the sports, the WNBA. I mean, that's compelling now. Obviously, there's two big reasons about why that with Angel and Caitlin, but it's just, boy, it's hard to be away from the TV now. And that's probably impacting my productivity, but it's wonderful.
Well, you could say that Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark are kind of the Larry Bird, Magic Johnson of the WNBA. You go back to 1979, Dick Enberg, and then Kenny Loggins. This is it. Make no mistake. That kind of took the March Madness to March Madness level. Mm-hmm. It says a lot about us as fans. And again, in talking with a lot of people up in Fayetteville over the weekend, I kept saying, watch the free market work this thing out, man. I don't have faith in governments. I have faith in people. And, I go back to what Greg Sankey said in the opening remarks in the State of the SEC. Brendan and I were in the Great Hall at the downtown Omni in Dallas, July 15th, Monday morning. And he said, I go back to this story, but it's the togetherness. It's all these different fans, Auburn, Alabama, LSU under the same tent, hanging out, drinking beer, eating, having fun. And, he said, America needs more of what college sports provide us with. And so I don't care if they pay attention or not, but that's just what it is. And the TV ratings, Tony Barnhart said on the show Thursday, Mr. College Football said, TV executives will tell you if you get 4 million eyeballs watching, 4 million people watching a college football game, that's a damn good day. That's a good day's work. Alabama, Georgia had 12 million plus. Okay. and I think that you got to ask a guy like Diego Pavia comes with Jerry Kill, and go back to what Clark Lee said. He said, I know a lot of y'all look at recruiting rankings and all, but here's what I'm looking at. There's not a player in the football building at Vanderbilt who did not sign with this coaching staff that don't believe what we're preaching, what we're teaching, what we're all about. And that's a big-ass deal. And people underestimate that. Why did Tim Corbin move the baseball program out of the main athletic building at Vanderbilt? Because it was toxic. When you start accepting losing, you're going to keep losing. You better hope to God that fans go crazy after a loss, because that means they care. So I'm looking at this. I'm going to do a real rapid fire with both of y'all.
Right. Can I tell a story real quick, Rob?
Yeah.
Just a real quick story. It's kind of funny how these things happen. So I'm having a discussion before the Florida game, and I'll make it quick. That, it's people that try to reinvent the game. And you know me, Rob, I'm a purist.
Yep.
Vanderbilt is a founding member of the SEC. To insinuate that Vanderbilt should ever be relegated to any other conference, to me, is blasphemy.
Yeah.
And then they go out 3 hours later and beat Alabama. And beat them, like Dave said. That's the thing. If people would just sit back and let the history of college football play out and continue to play out, we would be fine.
Yeah.
You got all these know-it-alls that think they know everything and literally were adamant about telling me that Vanderbilt had no business being in the SEC. Now, granted, I think they should have volleyball. They should have softball. But that's
swimming.
Swimming. But then they go out. But you and I both know they were talking from a football standpoint. And then they go out and knock off the number one team in the country.
Yeah.
Leave it alone, folks. You're not smarter than everybody. And this game at its root is pure. So go ahead, Rob. I'm just saying. It was just a funny story that they were talking about that. And then, that happens 3 hours later.
Yeah. And when we did the podcast at the Sigma Newhouse at Arkansas, right across the street from the stadium Friday morning, here comes their chancellor, Dr. Charles Robinson, comes out there. He spent 15 minutes with us, man, talking with us. And Doug and Frank both had questions for him and couldn't have been any nicer. Came back to a scholarship luncheon at our friend's house yesterday, walked over there, and then he and I talked for about 20 minutes, just one-on-one. Here I am, the chancellor of Arkansas, taking that time to me, and we talked about a lot of things. And I said, Doc, I'll be glad to be on a team with you, not a committee. We'll have a table with no chairs. We'll get everything done in about 10 minutes. No 3-hour meetings with a bunch of hot air and empty promises. And there's a lot going on behind the scenes, folks. And I'm not going to say with the presidents and the leadership. Now, I don't always think the presidents do a great job, but Arkansas's got them a good one. They got one. This dude walks all over campus. He's been there 28 years. He's like, man, I'm here for the students. We're going to fix this. And you're right. When you try to say we're smarter than the free market because we got iPhones and iPads and laptops, you're crazy. Our parents and our grandparents were so much smarter than we are. They went to bed earlier. They didn't have all this crap drama that they get caught up in, okay? So football, Dave, what's going on with Army and Navy? It's refreshing. It's like, wow, this is what we need. And look, here it is, the Monday after the Deep South's oldest rivalry, and there's really nothing to say in the post-mortem of Georgia 31, Auburn 13. Auburn's 2-4. But if Auburn doesn't hold it together, and their fans better watch out about cannibalizing, going after Hugh Freeze, you've got the number 3 ranked recruiting class. You flipped Deuce Knight out of Lucedale, Mississippi, down on Highway 98, George County, Mississippi, from Notre Dame. You may get, I'm not going to say, but you might get a couple of more. It could be number 1 in the country. You better watch your ass. Because if you want to do what Tennessee went from 2007 to 2022, 15 years without a double-digit win season. Keep doing it. And it sucks. It's a huge split sandwich. You know what I'm talking about. We've all got to take a bite. Florida fans, it's abnormal. It's like Frankenstein with an oval head. It's not normal to see Florida struggling like this. When Alabama went through that cycle, Dave, 97 to 07, Saban's first year.
24 years between 1983 and the arrival of Nick Saban. And there was the one national championship year, 92, with Coach Stallings. But
It's crazy.
All the consecutive loss streak to Auburn, getting pummeled by Tennessee, by
those
Florida.
were the days.
I mean, and some people start to suggest, not in the South, but other parts. I lived a long time on the West Coast. Oh, well, Alabama's irrelevant. Well, never say that, and never say Florida's irrelevant, and never say Auburn's irrelevant, because they're not. Yeah. They will come back. And to Lauren's point, a brilliant point. Let the games play themselves out. Let the seasons play themselves out. Let these big brands like Florida and Auburn, they will right the ship. They will right the ship. Yeah. There's too much tradition there. There's too much brand there. There's too much money there. Yeah. And let's just chill. Let's be happy for Vanderbilt. Let's be happy for Army and Navy. Let's one of my favorite things about Dayton is it's the home of the first 4 every year.
Yeah,
and that is true.
Yes, sir. There's been
Anthony Grant.
Maybe I know VCU did it one year and UCLA did it. There have been at least 2 first 4 teams that made it all the way to the Final Four. Mm-hmm. And you got to win 5 consecutive games to get to the Final Four if you're in the first 4. And so that's Tuesday and Wednesday night of the first week of March Madness in Dayton. That's compelling. I mean, that's another great change. And give the NCAA. We love to criticize the NCAA on this show, but give the NCAA credit for doing that. So
well, you guys remember, I mean, give or take what you care about Obama, he literally took Tony Blair to the first 4.
Yeah,
when he was prime. I mean, that's how much
he did love basketball
to the United States as sports fans as a whole. Forget the politics of it. Hey, man, this is must see if you come to the United States.
Well, and as a bracketologist, President Obama was without peer. I mean, ESPN would have him do the brackets, and he would always be in the top 4%.
Right.
And you know what? I won the office pool with Villanova. I'm a big Villanova Wildcat fan. I believe in the Catholic education strongly, but obviously Jay Wright did a hell of a job. He won me a lot of money. I'm going to throw – okay. I was on a radio show in Jackson, Mississippi with Jake Wimberly, the afternoon drive, 105.9 Thursday at about 5:30. I did not check the availability chart. I did not think Connor Wigman would play, and I felt like Missouri's death row defense would – be too much for that freshman quarterback, Marcel Reed out of Nashville. Mm-hmm. I didn't check. So I picked Missouri to win. I would not have picked them if I knew Connor Wigman was playing. I've got egg on my face. I've already eaten it for breakfast. Look, that was an ass beating, 44-10. Let's go real quick. We're going to put this thing 5-minute flash. Y'all break down Missouri, Texas A&M. Who was exposed and how good are the Aggies? These cheers, I'm trying to figure them out.
Missouri. I think since I returned from Columbia a year ago, where they completed a 4th and 17 to Luther Burden III against Florida, I've been negative on Missouri since then. I think that I think they beat an uninspired Ohio State team playing Sammy Ball at quarterback, basically, literally. That's why he was 33, because he loves Sammy
Doak
Ball.
Walker at running back.
And I just haven't been impressed with them. I have not bought them. The schedule has been laid out nicely for them, so I do think they'll win some football games. But I was not surprised by the outcome whatsoever, just because Texas A&M seems to have turned the corner, but I just really wasn't buying Missouri. I like Drinkwitz. I had the opportunity to meet him there in Auburn, Alabama during the SEC softball tournament. Great
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
One of my former players, Ruben Victoria, is the equipment manager. So I had a great time in Columbia when I went, but
Yeah.
I just wasn't buying them. I just don't think Missouri has recruited well enough. They haven't built the foundation, the depth to where I think people can really consider them one of the SEC main players. I've said that over and over. I've said it on Buddy's
You have.
show. I've
I
said it. I
chronicled
mean,
it.
I just was not buying Missouri, so I was not surprised whatsoever that game ended up that way. No, whatsoever. I mean,
Yeah.
you look at. I just don't think they're that tough. And
Yeah.
Texas A&M
I'm going to
arguably
make a point there.
has the best front, arguably the best front in the SEC, top
Yeah.
to bottom, and they just whipped them. I mean, they just flat out whipped them.
We played Army, played Missouri in a bowl game in 21. And of course, Missouri was more athletic and had more speed, and everyone gets that. But I mean, we beat them up. We won the game, and we
Right.
beat them up. I mean, we were just tougher. And
Right.
I mean, at line of scrimmage, when it was third and short, we got the first down. When they had a third and short, they didn't.
Right.
We stopped them on a couple fourth downs, and I think we saw that in College Station this on Saturday. And I'm very, very bullish on Texas A&M. They lost the game they could have, should have against Notre Dame to begin the season, but they've been sterling ever since. And you look at I mentioned earlier on the show, I mean, their road the rest of the way is, I mean, they have all winnable games until their final game against, the renewing of their rivalry with Texas,
Right.
but they're playing that at Kyle Field. So
Yeah.
I'm super bullish on the Aggies.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No,
Go, Rob.
Well, I was going to say that game, Mike Elko had been there before. And what intrigued me when he came back was he already knows that culture. It's not going to be a long, let's get to know one another cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And as many players as A&M lost, 30 plus that transferred out, guys like Walter Nolan, who's a defensive lineman at Ole Miss, they had the second best portal class in America, behind only the Fighting Kiffins of Ole Miss.
Right. Well, you look at here, and this is a name that Dave will know, Jay Bateman. Jay Bateman is the defensive coordinator at Texas A&M now, left Florida, took a couple guys with him, Scooby Williams, Jaden Hill, and they're playing good football right now for A&M. I mean, they were making some plays on Saturday, which kind of is an indictment on maybe what was going on here in Gainesville with some of those guys, because Jay Bateman now has took his group and they're playing well, and he's got guys like Scooby Williams and Jaden Hill playing a lot better football for Florida, for A&M than they were playing for Florida. So, that's another story that you could look at. What was going on here was Bateman being, kind of shooed away for his suggestions and things like that. And I've spent some time with Jay. We cut the same kind of road down there in the Durham, Raleigh, Chapel Hill area. They're playing well now. He's got them going, and like you said, they're going to be a tough out. I mean, could they stumble? Because it is the SEC. But if you look down the road, they got a nice road to definitely be a player and slip in that 7, 8, 9, things like that. And you and I both know if they get up in there and the way that group rallies around their team down there, I mean, it could be interesting, especially if you got to go there and play a first round game in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They
Well,
can get
I'm
one.
going to throw another one at y'all. We didn't even talk about, Ole Miss. I liked Ole Miss on the road because I said, what is on trial is Lane Kiffin's way of developing a football team. Heavy in the portal like he does. I said, it's on trial because they lost at home to Kentucky. At first I thought Kentucky would cover, but then I flipped, and I shouldn't have done that. My son said, are you sure? Don't change answers. Well, they go on the road, and I was like, I love them in a desperate role, 9-point favorite at South Carolina. They jump out 14-0, which you've got to do as a road team to try to take the crowd out of it. They never let South Carolina off the mat up for air, Dave. I mean, they just kept dunking them, and it wasn't even and that's where. And you know what this was impressive was? Their line of scrimmage, because that's what this league, LOS, is all about.
Yeah, I don't know Lane Kiffin personally, but my opinion of him is that he is so super talented that he takes his talent for granted sometimes, and he loses focus. And he needed that loss to get focused. And so, a focused Lane Kiffin is hard to beat. A serious Lane Kiffin, a Lane Kiffin who's just focused on the football team and the next game up schedule. That's a really good coach. And I think that, I love this development in football where a one-loss team can make it all the way through, or even a two-loss team can make it all the way through, because it's really a measure now of who is really the best football team. And so Ole Miss, Alabama, not Missouri, certainly Texas A&M. I mean, these are teams that can still win it all. And I think that loss, focused Lane Kiffin. They look great on Saturday, and I think they're going to continue to play good football.
Here's what's about to happen, Lauren, and I want your thoughts on Ole Miss. But Texas and Oklahoma, Red River Shootout coming up Saturdays. Texas State Fair lasts like a month. It's ginormous. Big Tex. Howdy, folks. Welcome to the Texas State Fair.
Right.
They will fry butter out there. I'm not kidding you. Ken Capps is going to be on the show Friday with one of the food vendors. This ought to be fun. Nothing would be more fun, though, than guessing people's weight at the Texas State Fair. That would be fun. All right, Lauren, your thoughts. You went to Oxford a couple of weeks ago. And, Ole Miss, I hate the way this is the second time in the last 3 or 4 years they've had this damn back-end loaded schedule where for the first month they don't run any hills, and then all of a sudden they face a team with a lot of hills, and they're not ready for it. They were not prepared for the task when they played Kentucky. But by God, they went on the road and curb stomped. South Carolina's a pretty damn good team because I thought they wanted to prove we had LSU until we didn't. But your take.
Yeah, I mean, that was a game that a lot of the pundits were picking a second loss for Ole Miss. I mean, they thought they would stub their toe there in Columbia, COSO, Columbia, South Carolina. And, they answered the charge. I mean, they came out, jumped on them, got the crowd out of it, and then, like I said, proceeded to, like we talk about the LOS, whip them up front.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I was that I saw when I looked at Ole Miss was sitting there playing Georgia Southern. I was like, they're good on defense, but are they great? And you talk about trying to vanquish a Georgia, an Alabama, a Oregon, and Ohio State. And I told a kid that played for me, it's on the Ohio State staff. I talked to him when I got back in town from Mississippi. I said, I just don't know if Ole Miss is savage enough to handle a group like you guys who's used to being there, that when it really comes down to it, this is old hat. You got some big boy transfers too, and I'm a person that I think, when people look at it building from the transfer portal, I think that Lane is no longer an outlier when it comes to that. And I think we got to give him credit for maybe just jumping on it sooner. But these kids have played football since they were 7, 8 years old. And to go in and learn a system and things like that, I think is overblown. I think they settle in. They didn't lose that game to Kentucky because they had a bunch of transfers. It just wasn't their day. They weren't ready, and maybe playing at home, like you said, maybe they kind of got a little bit lost in the sauce. And like I said, Lane is I know a coach that you can get caught up in your system where you don't give your best people the ball. Sometimes you just try to spread it around to show your stuff works versus, getting the ball to your best people. And I think that maybe was the mistake. And here's the thing about Kentucky. And I think this is where they got two guys in Barry and Brown and Dane Key. They're going to play a long time on Sundays. And when you play Kentucky, they're going to be physical, but those are the two equalizers on the outside. And in that game, both Key and Brown made impacts, run after the catch. And they went to Kentucky, but those were guys that everybody wanted. So when they get the ball in their hands in space, I don't care who you are, they put pressure on. And if you go back to that game, those two were the big differences for Kentucky when they need to move the football. But I mean, if you look at Ole Miss, like you said, they're backloaded. They make the trip to Gainesville late, and I kind
Yeah.
of called that a stub your toe game.
Yep.
I thought the Gators would be better, but I've kind of penciled that as a stub your toe game, things like that. So it's just going to be interesting. But if you look at them offensively, they can do it however they want it. But defensively, I think when it comes down to actually what I think Ole Miss fans think that they could be, headed to the college football playoff championship game, I think the defense ultimately is going to be their Achilles heel.
Yeah, but you've got, if your defensive line, your front seven doesn't have depth, you're not going to go to the top. It will not happen. This Texas OU game Saturday, what Texas is about to experience, what we talk about, is the damn grind. Look, this past weekend, you had Kentucky was off, LSU was off, Mississippi State was off, Oklahoma was off, and Texas was off. Okay? So Texas will have to play Oklahoma Saturday. And I think Oklahoma's won like 6 of the last 7.
I was about to say, Oklahoma's very comfortable with this game.
Very comfortable, yeah.
Very comfortable.
And when they take the team photos for Oklahoma, all the players do the horns down. I mean, they hate one another. Now, Ken Capps, who'll be on the show with us Friday, Football Writers Association of America, says, Rob, I know y'all love each other in the SEC. It's a family. He goes, I just can't see Texas and OU people hanging out together. I said, it'll happen. But you know what? We're going to find out, because the week after, in the past when Texas was in the Southwest Conference, they would play the Red River Shootout. The next week, they played Arkansas. Always a big game either in Austin or in Fayetteville.
Absolutely.
So, look, man, Texas is going to experience the grind because they got to play Oklahoma Saturday. The following week, they go back to Austin. And, yeah, keep it weird is their motto out there. It's going to be weird. You got Georgia coming to town. I don't think this Georgia team's as good as the previous 3 Georgia teams. I think they're pretty good. They don't have the playmakers at wide receiver, the studs, the depth. Etienne looks good. But, guys, the SEC, I mean, this coming weekend, you got Alabama hosting South Carolina. Kalen DeBoer is now experiencing the love of the Alabama fan base like he's never felt it before. How many times have you heard me say this? All these Bama players and people saying it's so much more fun without Coach Saban around. Practices are more lighthearted and fun. Hell, they even brought an ice cream truck out there. They brought Roll Tide Willie out there. Oh, it was all fun for shits and giggles. And I've been saying, you wait till Alabama loses a damn football game. And the narrative will be.
What's that song by David? What's that song by David Bowie and Freddie Mercury? Under Pressure.
Yeah,
that's the song.
So I said, you wait till Alabama loses a game, the narrative will now become what I'm saying. If they weren't so busy screwing around in practice and giggling and having fun, you had Coach Saban driving them hard, and you didn't have a damn ice cream truck at practice and Roll Tide Willie out there and all this crazy distractions and music and clowns and, everybody getting face painting, you wouldn't have lost to Vanderbilt. That's the way it works. Mm-hmm. Kalen DeBoer, when he first got to Alabama, was giving people his phone number. And they were like, oh, you can't do that. I mean, these people take this stuff seriously. Okay, Let me say something about our sponsors. Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee, open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m., 6 p.m. Fall stuff is coming in. Filson, STS, Duckheads, over 7,000 pairs of men's and women's boots. Get out there. Great looking stuff. Duck Camp. They got the Duck Camp waiters. They got all kinds of great looking gear. And I also want to say about Coolmore Logistics and Transportation. Anything that you need shipped. And I don't care if it's in Miami to Seattle. They can get it moved. They're Memphis-based with a global reach. Goes up on the board. They'll find drivers. And they will get out there and get it delivered for you. Again, Coolmore Logistics and Transportation. And all of our sponsors can be found at sidelines.live. Guys, looking at the week ahead, I mean, Alabama, South Carolina, Florida at Tennessee, Georgia is playing Mississippi State in Athens. Kentucky's got Vanderbilt in Lexington. Okay, LSU, Ole Miss in Baton Rouge. Wow. Missouri has UMass. They're on the road at UMass. Oh my God, they're on the road at UMass. That's not supposed to happen.
Amherst, Massachusetts.
That's right. Okay, Oklahoma and Texas, Red River Shootout. Okay, and you know what? Auburn's off this weekend. Arkansas is off, and Texas A&M is off. How great is college football? I mean, tonight, Buddy Martin show, 9 p.m. Eastern. Y'all will be talking about the Gators and what's going on there. But guys, what's the most compelling storyline in college football right now? I'm going to throw it to Dave and then to Lauren.
I've got to go homer and say it's Army and Navy.
About? What?
I've got to be a homer and say it's Army and Navy and their best start combined since 1945, since Mr. Inside, Mr.
Correct.
Outside. That may not end up being the biggest story, but in my opinion, that's the biggest story right now.
Lauren Meadows, the man from Southwest Ohio.
The unknown. I think we got a lot of football to be played, and what's ahead is the biggest storyline. I think that nobody knows what this great odyssey into the 12-team playoff is going to look like, and I think it's the unknown. I think it's the fact that we are just about 6 weeks in, and this thing has a long way to go. And I think you're going to see some players emerge. I think the Big Ten, in some ways, because the SEC has kind of been such a storyline and there's been some great headlines and things like that, I think there's going to be some teams out the Big Ten that are going to start to emerge. Obviously, we know one. And, can the big breeze from the north, that is Ohio State, compete with some of the schools in the SEC when it really comes down to it? There's going to be some intriguing football games in that 12-team playoff. Like you said, if Army or Navy would get in, I mean, just the historical significance in year one of the playoff. So to me, it's just, I'm like waiting every week till this thing kind of comes to a crescendo in the first week of December. And we're like, okay, now this is what we waited for. And finally, all those teams that thought, hey, what about us? What about us? We didn't. Now you get to prove it on the field. And for all the NIL and all this other talk, like I keep saying, the field is 100 yards long, 53 1/3 wide, and there's still 22 dudes out there going at it every Saturday. And when you snap the ball, I don't care how much NIL money you got, what car you drive, I'm trying to kick it in the dirt. And I think that's what's beautiful about it. So mine is just the great unknown is still out there. I mean, is Travis Hunter going to win the Heisman? Just all those things, those unknowns that are going to have an opportunity to play themselves out in the next, 6 to 7 weeks.
And I want to know if Diego Pavia is going to take up a career if he doesn't make it in the NFL in tough man competitions, mixed martial arts. this guy is a badass.
They grow him different down there in New Mexico. So
who would not want this guy as a teammate, man? I mean, this is what we love about the game. And this is what we've been pointing toward is you get into, we're still early October, folks. It's still 90 degrees today. Right. But you looking at what you're looking at is in November. Everybody in the top 25 is going to be realistically saying, like in the movie Dumb and Dumber, hey, so you're saying there's a chance. Yeah. So who are the most overrated teams, underrated? Hell, we don't know. That's why we play the damn games. Mm-hmm. And what I'm seeing right now in the SEC, Texas is the only undefeated team left out there. But they have not yet experienced back-to-back weekends of SEC football. That's going to be the true test. And I bet you I'll be shocked if they don't come out 1-1 in this thing. As good as they are, it's the SEC. And there's good football being played all over the country. Look, all these
Well, I want to say shout out to Jerry Kill, too, when you talk about
Yes.
Vanderbilt and Pavia.
Oh, God, yeah.
You talk about overcoming adversity And, he's not a household name to SEC fans, but Jerry Kill can coach, man.
Yeah. I watched him in Minnesota.
Yeah. Even Northern Illinois, I mean, he could coach.
And his health problems that he's had to overcome.
Absolutely.
He's a phenomenal coach. And let me say something real quick. Frank Duffy on the show Friday, the Cajun Navy, what they are doing in East Tennessee, North Carolina, North Georgia, wherever they can help, it's unbelievable. And Samaritan's Purse, Franklin Graham, Billy Graham's son, he's real because he has experienced a lot of stuff in his personal life, and he's never quit. And we are Americans first, and that's all that matters. And we really got to get back to that. If I had a 10-man team in my cabinet, in my company, I'd have 2 or 3 people that are different than me because I don't want everybody thinking the same way. But at the end of the day, we remember this, where most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Find ways to help people. There's a lot. And by God, Brendan and all the people in Florida, think about what they are going through and what's about to come their way. And maybe you want to go buy something and blow some money. Hold back and think about what you can send directly to Samaritan's Purse and the people that are in the path of these hurricanes getting their damn ass kicked. This is tough. This is real life issues. These games, we love them, but find ways to help people every day and find excuses to win. Dave Tompkins, Lauren Meadows, executive producer Brendan Martin, who's at the tip of the spear. Lauren, you're in Gainesville. You are too. Make sure you let our audience know what we can do to help y'all because that's what we're here for every single day. What a day, man. What a great show. It's going to be a great week, man. And watch the Buddy Martin show tonight at 9 because it's going to be wild. It's going to be crazy. But that's what we love is about college football is the unknown. See you tomorrow, folks. Thanks for watching.
Thanks a lot, guys.
All right.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.